Hi, this is Aaron Maslyansky. I just wanted to give a little bit of a preface to the episode today. We're going to be speaking with Juliana Taimoorazy, and she is a local Skokie resident who runs an organization that helps people who are in Iraq. And right now there's quite a bit going on there with demonstrations and fighting within the government and things going on in northern Iraq and Syria that are obviously difficult subjects, so just want to make people aware of that before listening to the show. But it is an important subject, an important thing that's going on, and it affects many people here in the local community because of family and friends that they have there or they come from that area. So please listen, learn, and thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Inside the Skev, and I'm your host, Aaron Maslyansky. Today we have Juliana Taimoorazy. She is a local Skokie resident. She's come here originally from Iran, and Juliana is the founder and president of the Iraqi Christian Relief Council. She's also a senior fellow at the Philos project, and we're going to talk about what those organizations do. And Juliana, thanks so much for coming on.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Aaron, for inviting me.
My pleasure. You do a lot of work that affects people throughout the world, especially in Iraq. And why is that so important to you? What gave you that drive to help the people, the Iraqi Christians in Iraq?
So I'm an Assyrian by ethnicity. As you know, our ancestral homeland is northern Iraq and southern Turkey. Our kingdom fell 612 before Christ, and since then we have lived in the region, overrun by different governments, overrun by different empires historically. And today, our pockets are in Iran, in southern Turkey, in western Turkey, in northeast Syria, and throughout Iraq. Iraq being our ancestral homeland. Prior to the intervention of the U.S. in Iraq, we were 1.5 million Assyrians there. Today, we have barely 200,000 left. So this is a tragedy that has unfolded in front of the world's eyes. The reason I got involved is because I'm a cultural preservationist. I'm an Assyrian through and through. And I realized that with the invasion of Iraq, there were so many Al-Qaeda members that found safe haven inside Iraq, destroying really Iraq as a whole, but especially the Christian lives, and no one was paying attention to this. So I have dedicated my life in an organized way since 2007 for being one of the voices for the persecuted church in Iraq.
And so what are some of the things that your organization does to help the people?
So Iraqi Christian Relief Council asks for prayers. We educate the masses. We travel worldwide. We talk in different conferences, in churches and synagogues. We tell them who the Assyrians, Chaldeans, and Syriacs of Iraq are, and what is our ask, what is our plight. And through those conversations, through the media outlets that we get an opportunity as a platform to use, we receive donations. The donations that come from four corners of the U.S. Are spent in Iraq on food, shelter, medicine, and now on infrastructure such as rebuilding schools, rebuilding homes, digging wells for clean water. But we also support refugees. We have about 45,000 refugees that are displaced outside Iraq, in Jordan, Lebanon, and Turkey, and we stand by them as well through sending money for their rent or for food and for medicine. So this is what we do. But we also advocate in Washington, D.C., at the European level, as well at the EU. In Britain, we've done a lot of advocacy work as well, because ultimately, so much more than humanitarian aid, the Christians of Iraq need a real political solutions, and this is what we stand for, we advocate for.
And, today we are recording, it's October 7th, and there's a lot going on in the news in Iraq and Syria, be it in Iraq with massive protests and backlash from the government, and then in Turkey, there looks to be an invasion coming from the Turks to northern Syria. What can people do to help the people that are there from utter destruction?
Wow, such a big question, Aaron. These are really, everything rests in the hands of politicians, really. Let's take Iraq, for example. So what's happening inside Iraq, the reason people have taken to the streets, it all began when General second in command who defeated ISIS, who played an important role in defeating ISIS, his name is al-Saadi, and he fought hard. He was not a yes man, and the current administration in Iraq felt threatened, and they removed him. So the uprising began in his support initially. Then Muqtada al-Sadr, who is the cleric, the Shiite cleric who is a power monger, he took the opportunity to use corruption. That is really, Iraq is a really corrupt country. Used the corruption to mobilize his base. His base started asking for basic living conditions to be improved, for healthcare to be improved, for education to be given to the kids, or for those who have been educated already to get jobs. And majority of the protests have taken to the streets to fight corruption. But as we saw under the rule of this prime minister, al-Mahdi, they have just been slaughtering people left and right. It's been terrible. There have been so many journalists have been detained. Television and radio stations have been demolished and have been taken over by the government. It's been terrible. I'm in touch with people from the south. I've been in touch with people in Mosul, and Mosul is fairly quiet right now. But people are asking for military to take over. They want General al-Saadi back, who is a Shiite, but he's anti-Iran. We need to cut the hands of Iran from Iraq, truly, because that is a very dangerous presence in the region to begin with. But having Iraq taken over Iraq, as we see today, they've taken over Lebanon. They've taken over Syria to a large extent. That is a real threat for our national security in the U.S. and also for Israel especially. So that is the unrest that is happening. But today, a couple of hours ago, one of the State Department officials who shall remain nameless, he said that this doesn't look good for the current prime minister. And I believe the ambassador, it was the U.S. ambassador to Iraq who said, if I'm not mistaken, that was him who said that they suspect that the prime minister is going to step down. So that's Iraq. What can people do? People can, voice their concerns to the state reps and say, look, we're worried about the people of Iraq. We've shed so much American blood to supposedly liberate Iraq. And how can we let go of Iraq and for it to sink in this chaos? Again, right after ISIS. In terms of Turkey and Syria, is so much more complicated. Turkey is threatened by the Kurds. The Kurds are considered the YPG, which is an extension of PKK, that is considered a terrorist group. Although they have fought, how can I put this diplomatically? They have been an agent to fight against ISIS, but with tremendous help from the U.S. They have not done it alone. The U.S. has helped them tremendously.
Effective.
They have been effective, and currently they have about 5,000 ISIS fighters in their control in northeast Syria. But Erdogan, who is an Ottomanist, he wants to take over northeast Syria, and under auspices of creating a safe haven for the refugees who are from Syria inside Turkey, he wants to bring them back in northeast Syria to create a safe haven for them, right? So basically, he wants to supposedly repatriate the Syrian refugees into Syria.
What do you think he really wants to do?
He wants to take over. He wants to expand Turkey. He's an Ottomanist. He wants to, if he could, he would take even Mosul in Iraq. To him, he said, look, I'm going to redraw the Turkish border. So he wants to have a buffer between him and the Kurds, and he considered Kurds inside his own country as well terrorists. So in terms of us, the Assyrians, the Kurds, look, let's be realistic. The Kurds have not been exactly very friendly to our cause. They have been an oppressive force inside Iraq, inside Turkey, and inside Syria. Unless we side with them, we as Assyrian Christians, and also Chaldeans and Syriacs, unless we side with them, they will not be friendly. They will start oppressing us, and they've done that in the past. But Turkey as well, they massacred the Assyrians alongside Armenians and Greeks in 1914. And then we have Assad. Right? Assad is not exactly to be revered, but the administration, his regime, has sort of protected the Christians. But really, the region is sinking in chaos. And don't forget Iran. So if the U.S., if Donald Trump is using the Turks right now to stand in the face of Iran, as well as the Saudi Arabian kingdom. I don't think we can bet on Erdogan, because Erdogan is anti-Semite. He's not a friend of Christians. He's not really a friend of the West, and he repeatedly has said, "I will deliver ISIS fighters to the West so they can take over."
Oh wow! So it seems like, I don't know, at least from here, it seemed like things had simmered down for a little bit in that region, just a little bit, and now it seems like it's going to pick up even more than it was before.
Yes, with his invasion of northeast Syria, and if the Kurds are defeated, then he will set those ISIS fighters on the loose. He's going to set them free, and they're going to start roaming freely throughout the region. They're going to start probably wreaking havoc on Christian lives, Yazidi lives, and they're going to be traveling westward to wreak havoc on our lives. So we really have to have wise leadership in the White House, in European Union, and also in Israel, frankly.
And, locally, you're going to be leading a prayer vigil this coming Wednesday, October 9th. Is that correct?
Yes, we have decided to show our support for the Iraqi people because all literally they've been asking for is better lives. And the Christians, the Assyrians, are also midst of them. We want to show our stance with the Iraqi people. So we have organized a vigil on Wednesday the 9th at 6 p.m. at Notre Dame High School, right on Dempster. The prayers and candle lighting will begin at 6. It will probably go till about 6:45 or so. We're going to have a couple of speeches, short speeches, to give a message to the world about the Iraqi people. It's just a show of solidarity of the American Middle Easterners with the Iraqi people.
And, I think it hits close to home for you because of how you came here. And, your story is one of many refugees who have left. And I think sometimes people question, why are so many people trying to leave their homeland? Why do they want to come to the United States? Why do they want to come to Europe? Why can't they stay where they are? And I mean, when you hear about what's going on and what's been going on, frankly, for many decades in the region or different places, you could start to understand why it's so much better of an option to risk your life to travel across the world. And, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your story and how you got to Skokie?
I was born and raised in Iran, and our lives were very comfortable prior to 1979 revolution. We had religious freedom, we had opportunity to work, freedom of expression. And in 1979, everything changed. I had to abide by Sharia law. I mean, I was 6 years old when the revolution broke, but immediately, as soon as I started school, a couple of years later, at age of 9, I had to cover my hair, and all you could see literally were my hands and my face, even though I'm a Christian. So the Assyrians, at the time in the 1980s, we were about 80,000 people in Iran. Today, we have barely 7,000 people left in the whole country. And the Assyrians are all Christians. So because of my faith, because of my ethnicity, I came under scrutiny by my teachers, by my classmates. They would make fun of me for being a Christian, or they would tell me that I would burn in hell for my Christian name. And my father decided to smuggle me out of the country. Now, why smuggle and why I couldn't leave legally? Because I was under the age 30 and I was unmarried. We went through a series of smugglers. One smuggler decided his solution was that he would marry me, convert me officially to Islam, destroy my Christian paperwork, and then he would, after an official marriage, he would deliver me, quote unquote, to my brother, who had been smuggled out the year before, who was a physician. My brother is a doctor. To Germany, where he lived. The second smuggler decided to, he said, we're going to put her in sheep clothing, put her next to real animals, drive her in this truck all the way to India from Iran, and then we will fly her from India to Germany. And my parents said, absolutely not. Finally, the last smuggler created a fake visa, a fake passport for me. We flew to Switzerland, met another smuggler who hid us in a monastery for a week. And then he drove us over the border to Germany, where we sought religious asylum. We turned ourselves into the police. We came to the States in 1990. Now, that's a journey that when you're in it, Aaron, you don't really think about it. You just do what is expected of you. Now, looking back, I say, I don't know if I could do it again. I came to the States because I wanted to be free. And I'm grateful for this country because if I had been left in Iran, I wouldn't have been able to serve my community that is devastated in Iraq. I probably wouldn't have been able to educate myself. I have a master's in instructional design. So I'm really grateful for the opportunities given, but to those who have been given much is expected of. So this is why I do what I do. I've dedicated my life to God and to my own Assyrian people and to those who are oppressed in the region. You know, as a child, I always wanted to come to the States. As a child, I used to dream about what life could be in America. So when I came here, actually, ever since I was 7 years old, I was an activist for the Assyrian people. Why? Because there are only about 3 million of us left in the world. We're losing our Aramaic language, which is language of Christ. In the West, because we're melting in the fiber of the West. We're losing our heritage and our culture. And in the East, we're being killed. So ever since I was a child, I used to want to serve my community so we can preserve this culture. Ever since I was 7, it's been just a dream of mine to empower my own people. But in 2003 and 4, when they literally started falling to the sword, if you will, and the world was not paying attention, I decided to speak up, to break the silence. And that's what we've been doing. So to answer your question, my life would have been completely different if I had been left in Iran. I would not have been able to serve the community. And, you know, for me, my work for God and my work for the Assyrian people is like breathing. I don't think about it. It comes naturally to me. I can't imagine another life. And with my entrepreneurial background, with the education that I received, with working with the engineers, I think that developed me into a discipline where I can bring that into the world of nonprofit. So you mentioned something interesting. You said you were not politically involved. And I still don't see myself as a politician. I see myself as a humanitarian who wants to preserve her culture. Yeah. But at the same time, politics and humanitarian work and human rights is so intertwined that you cannot really separate the two. So I've been pulled into the politics, but I really am a humanitarian, and I speak about the immediate needs of the people. And this is why we do a lot of fundraising to help people sustain their lives. Because, Aaron, the refugees in Turkey and in Lebanon and Jordan, a lot of them who led successful lives in Iraq today have been reduced to eating out of garbage cans, living in terrible conditions. And what does that do to morals of a father who used to have a successful life, or a mother who used to have beautiful hair salons and would provide food or a good living for her family, and now she has to wait for a foreign NGO, non-governmental organization. Handout, yes. It's terrible. I go to the region 2-3 times a year, to each country, to Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan, and Iraq. I'm sorry, to Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq, and I see them all the time, and my heart bleeds. So this is what I live for. I live for making their lives better.
Yeah. And in Chicago and in Skokie, there's a large Assyrian community. Do you engage with them a lot, and are they active within your organization as well?
Good question. Yes, we have about 100,000 Assyrians here in the Chicagoland area. We started migrating to the Chicagoland area from the late 1800s, early 1900s, because that's when really the main massacres started occurring in ancient Mesopotamia, or in Mesopotamia. So majority of my work is with non-Assyrians. I'm a bridge builder. I'm a networker. So I go out there, I build bridges between the Assyrians and the Jews, the Assyrians and the Greeks and Italians and Americans. So So I bring new blood into my community. I educate others about who we are, and majority of the donations that come from non-Assyrians, the Christians and the Jews who really care about humanity and care about their fellow Christians, for example, inside Iraq.
Are other people in your organization in the United States, or are they in local in Iraq, or do you work with partners on the ground?
I work with partners on the ground. I have trusted partners in Jordan, in Turkey, and in Iraq, and we're reestablishing another relationship in Lebanon. Lebanon has been a little bit challenging for us, so we are active there, but not as heavily as we are in Lebanon, in Turkey, Jordan, and Iraq. I am up to date. I receive up-to-date information. For example, this current uprising, I'm in touch with people in the South. My phone is bombarded with messages of pleas, with the a list of asks, with videos of people getting blown up. I mean, I have seen so much within the last 5 days because this began on October 1. I have seen so much bloodshed that is happening, and I continuously send this information to the people who are connected for them to really intervene and do something for these poor people. And of course, social media. I mean, if you go on Twitter, you'll see all these things erupting on social media as well. But yes, I have trusted people that I work with who are legitimate in the eyes of the government. So in Jordan, in Turkey, and Lebanon, I work with I keep on saying Lebanon. And Iraq, I work with people that have legitimate presence, sanctioned by the government's official organizations.
Do you see a change in the future where things can be peaceful?
Oh my goodness! Wow, what a big question, Aaron. The region cannot stay this way. I think if we can go back all the way to Sykes-Picot, I think they made a very big mistake.
Can you explain, just I guess as briefly as you can, what Sykes-Picot is?
Sure. So with the fall of the Ottoman Empire, then the Westerners decided to redraw the map of Mesopotamia. 1917 initially it was England, France, and Russia that were in the discussion of what do we do now that the Ottoman Empire has fallen. But with the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, Russia had to withdraw from these discussions. So mainly this responsibility fell on the shoulders of France and England. So they literally sat in their office in Europe, and they took their pen and they drew the map of what we see today. So, look, Middle East is very tribal. Middle East is very diverse. You cannot lump people together that have opposing views. It's just very difficult. So that's why I believe in decentralization. So one of the solutions that we've proposed, it's not mine, but we are proposing is decentralization in Iraq. What does that mean? For the past 15 years, Iraqis have been looking at this model where central government would empower local administrations, much like the U.S. The U.S. is comprised of states, but they really all are under Washington, D.C., correct?
Like a federal system.
Federal, yes. Yeah. So we Assyrians, if we want to survive in Iraq, in our own ancestral homeland, which is an area called Nineveh Plain, it's on northeast part of Mosul. It's about 1,200 square miles. If we want to survive there, we need to have that as one of the provinces in Iraq, in the federated Iraq. I don't believe in secession at this time. The Kurds want to secede, but I don't think that's a solution. I think this is going to be chaos if Kurds secede from Iraq. I don't think they can sustain themselves because the only way they're sustaining themselves now is because of the money that the U.S. gives. So what is the future of the Middle East? I think we really have to face Iran head on. Iran is a very dangerous player. I think we need to decentralize Iraq and make provinces of it without breaking it apart, but keeping it as a federal entity. And I think Turkey needs to be put in check. I mean, it's interesting. And at one moment, President Trump says, we're pulling out our troops, and then through other tweets, he comes out and says, look, I'm going to today, it just happened today, I'm going to destroy the economy of Turkey if they're going to do something wrong in Syria. So that's not very clear. It doesn't give a clear message. to the region, you know?
Right.
So, and right now, frankly, it's Russia that is more respected than the U.S. in the region. So we need to regain that respect. We need to empower the people of the lands in each country and repatriate the refugees so they can go back and rebuild their lives. But it's we have a long road ahead of us. And the other thing is, Islamic ideology, the extreme Islamic ideology is not dead. It will never die, really. Is ISIS, when they say ISIS is defeated, I chuckle because ISIS is not defeated. The Islamic State is an ideology which will never be defeated unless it starts from within Islam. If you and I, Aaron, start going out and trying to stop this, we're going to be looked upon as crusaders or as Israelis going in and trying to control things. But I think it has to start from within for it to disintegrate from within. And I'm pro-Israel, personally. Mm-hmm. I believe building a bridge between the Assyrians and the Jews. I've always believed that. I've coined the term child Zionist because my father raised me to love the state of Israel and to love the Jewish people, not because Jesus was a Jew, but because the Jewish people are our brethren, the Assyrian brethren. We've lived next door to them for centuries, especially in northern Iraq. So for me, the fate of Israel is extremely important as well.
Yeah. I just, wish people could realize their commonalities rather than differences and, share the humanity between each other and, be able to actively engage in peace with each other. And, there's got to be some kind of an idea to kind of stop this endless war.
I think if we empower the locals with education, if we empower the locals with economy, not many will be then corrupted. Not many will be able to be bribed. And what you presented really is an idealistic approach of things. But without idealism, I don't think Israel would have ever been come to existence. I don't think Armenia would be created. I don't think
the United
Rwanda.
States would be created.
Exactly. So I'm a fan of idealism, but at the same time, I think that we need to choose leadership that really care about the people, and we need to empower bottom up individual lives that make their lives better. So they will see the truth in different ideologies that they're tearing apart the Middle East and really the world. And that reminds me of Beethoven's Ode to Joy when Schiller's poem says, "All men become brothers." That's something that I would love to see, but I don't think I will see it in my lifetime.
No. And you talk about building bridges within communities. You're part of the Philos project. So if you could tell us a little bit about what is that organization?
Philos project was founded in 2014 by Robert Nicholson. And the purpose of it is to promote positive Christian engagement in the Middle East. So we support the Copts in Egypt with empowering their youth, standing up with them when there's an oppression inflicted on them by different factions, by different groups, or by the government. We stand with the Assyrian Christians in Iraq. We help through my ministry and my partnership with the Philos Project. We have built homes, we have distributed food and etc. there in Iraq. We've helped multiple patients in Jordan to be supported. So, and also, of course, we believe in empowering Israel. We believe in the Palestinian Christians and the plight of Palestinians as well, because we want to bring friends together, right? We want to create friendships. We believe in a multi-ethnic, multi-religious pluralism in Middle East. So that's the idea behind Philos Project, to bring networks together, to create these bridges between communities, to alleviate misunderstandings through education. So, but we fight BDS. We believe in empowering the state of Israel because we believe that the state of Israel is probably the only solid democracy that exists in the Middle East. And through Philos Project, I prior to Philos, I've been in touch with the Jewish community. I was in Israel in 2012, building relationships there. But through Philos Project, I've managed to expand my relationships with the Jews, and a relationship that I cherish and hold dear and I protect. And we bring a lot of Assyrian young people to Israel for them to see how Israel came about, how this miracle was finally materialized, the love of the Israelis, the Jews, for the land, for their language. How did they exist in the diaspora for so long and not lose the love of Judaism? And also, of course, it's a religious trip as well, because we go where Jesus walked, if you will, and we go to these Christian sites. But also, I want my young Assyrians to see the spirit of Judaism and how alive and well it is among the Jewish people, and have that love of Assyria planted in their hearts, and love of the language planted in their hearts.
Why is that so important to have that love of the language, the heritage, the land to you?
The Assyrians converted to Christianity through St. Thomas the Apostle. So 2,000 years we've been Christians, almost 2,000 years. When we come to the West, we get absorbed in the Western church. Our kids are born here. Our kids don't speak the language anymore. We don't cook our Assyrian traditional foods. Our dialect is gone, we're losing our dialect. Our oral history is dying. So, and we don't have a country per se that I can take my grandkids to one day and say, look, this is your land called Assyria. Currently, it's occupied by the Kurds and the Arabs, yeah? So it's different. Our cause is different than an Irishman, for example, who lives in the U.S., or an Italian who lives in the U.S. They can always go back to Italy that is strong, that speaks Italian, that there's Italian music and cuisine. And what separates our cause is very much like the Jewish cause, very much like the Jewish cause, with a couple of differences. But the main difference is, let's be honest, Christianity has been the one that has really devastated the Jewish community historically. So for you guys stayed together because you were not Christian. And you always, and I think Zionism has been a part of your faith, if I'm not mistaken. Always next year in Jerusalem, always love of the land, right? Love of Zion.
It really took off in the 1800s with
Theodore Herzl. Yes. Yeah. But you always had it. You always said next year in Jerusalem, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's different. We are losing our ethnicity in the West, but we're getting stronger as Christians. Whereas you guys kept your ethnicity and your faith, and you always looked to your land to have this land. So that's the stark difference, that you went home.
And to have that pride, and to have a pride in where you come from, right?
Exactly.
You know, I recently interviewed Kem Cohen, who is one of the Park District Commissioners for Skokie, but she's also the president of the Cambodian American Museum that's here in Chicago. And I have not released the episode yet. I will soon. But you know, there was the genocide in the late 1970s, and you know, there are many refugees, many people killed, and there has been such a loss of their culture, language, arts, that they're trying to create that connection because it's a similar story.
Exactly.
Know? And they even have an artist in residence who is there. She's from Cambodia. She speaks the language, plays the music, and you know, they have classes for people can come, like kids, to learn it, to kind of just so you have pride in your heritage. I think it is an important thing, and I think that's an important thing as an American, that we all come from different places, but we can have pride from where we came from.
Exactly. My grandmother was a well-known woman in Iran. And in her autobiography, she says, when we start thinking in a foreign language and not in our own Assyrian Aramaic language, that's when you lose your identity. So, and it's true. It may sound harsh to a lot of people, but it's a fact, because once we live in the West, we get complacent. And some of it is really, Aaron, because of the trauma that has been inflicted on us.
Yes.
For centuries, we've come under attack. For centuries, we've been slaughtered. There are 8 members of my family that were killed because they were Christian. So that trauma, so for example, my siblings don't want to have anything really to do with I'm being very harsh on my own family, but they're not as passionate, let's say, as I am about keeping the language, keeping the culture, making sure the cuisine is, kept together. Why? Because they've been traumatized. A lot of Iraqis that come to the West after, especially since ISIS, they say, we don't want to talk about Iraq anymore. We're done. We now want to live. We want to give a good life to our kids. But I keep on going back and saying, no, let's keep our heritage alive.
Well, it's a similar story to Jews after the Holocaust. I mean, it's every
Indeed.
community that comes after a tragedy. So, but it's important to keep that memory alive so it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with you completely, and we've dedicated our lives to this cause through different activities, really, in the United States, because we're empowered, and we're able to do that.
Right. And just to tie it back a little bit to the Skokie community and Evanston as well, but I think it's great that we have a community that is so diverse and has so many people who are first generation from other places around the world, where we can share that and lean on each other to be proud of where we came from and to create a new community here with respect for the past.
We love living in Skokie. We call Skokie Little Assyria because it's a very beautiful suburb to live in, and it's really a community. We help each other in this community. We help our own businesses in this community, and I'm very happy. I've lived in Skokie for the last 5 years, and really I've lived in other suburbs as well before, for the last 30 years. But I would say I'm the happiest when I've lived in Skokie, truly.
That's great. Well, where can people find you online and follow you on social media?
So on Facebook, we're under Iraqi Christian Relief Council. On Twitter, we're Iraqi Christian, not plural, singular, Iraqi Christian. And of course, I have my own Twitter handle and personal or public page as well on Facebook. But on the website, our website is IraqiChristianRelief.org. In about a week, we're going to have a brand new website. We're working on it right now, and I'm very proud of the new one. But you can get some basic information on what we do and who we are on IraqiChristianRelief.org. If you want me to come to your church, to your synagogue, I can speak on the geopolitical issue. I can especially talk about the Christian persecution issue in the Middle East. And if you feel moved to help the people that are suffering, the refugees that are suffering immensely, I'm launching a program called Adopt a Family, a refugee family program, which any help will go directly towards helping these people with rent and food. We're not endowed, so everything we receive is from donations, basically, in churches and some foundations, but we really heavily rely on individual donations from across the country. And also, if you're interested in learning more about how to rebuild these people's lives infrastructure-wise in Iraq, we look for partnerships with businesses, with foundations. We've been in existence since 2007. So we have a lot of stories to share, a lot of success stories, but we cannot do it without you.
It's good to know. And also just want to point out, if people do go to your social media, there are some pretty hard things to watch on there right now, given what's going on. But, I think it's important to have that firsthand knowledge.
It's very interesting you say this because historically, I've tried to keep a balance between what is reality and how bad it really is, to maintain a balance between that and what the Western audience can tolerate, right? So it's a very fine line that I'm treading. What you have seen, yourself, Aaron, on our social media has been really a very watered down visual of what is happening there. If I open my phone for you right now and you see the legs blown off, the faces blown off, I refuse to put those because that turns off the audience. devastating to see. So we try to
horrible.
maintain the balance of telling the story, the reality of what's happening, and not turning off the audience either.
Right. Well, Juliana, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And, everyone, please subscribe for more shows. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. This is amazing. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time. And may God bless you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to this latest episode of Inside the Skev. I hope you enjoyed it. Just remember to subscribe. And if you need any assistance for your real estate needs in the Chicagoland area, or specifically Skokie, Evanston, or Skevinston, feel free to reach out to me. I am a realtor at Dreamtown Realty in Evanston. You can email me at aaron@skevinston.com or go to my website, aaronmaslyansky.com. Thanks so much for listening.